Okay, only one place to start. The Thomas Tuchel era kicked off England.
It did.
2-0 win against Albania. I was there last night. Do you know what? There was quite a lot of buzz around England actually last night. Thomas Tuchel's first game. Yeah, I mean it's against Albania, but they got the job done, Joe. Keep the positivity. There is, as you alluded to though, whenever there is a squad selection for England, any squad, a lot of people critiquing the first squad. So it gave us an idea, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Today we are going to go through the squad Thomas Tuchel has picked, all 26 players, and we're going to see who our guests think will end up on the plane to the 2026 World Cup. How many of them will stay at home? How many of them will go? Okay, so this is who you think will end up there. It's your selection.
Not a prediction, your selection.
It's who you would take. Okay, so Dean Henderson.
Start with the keepers.
He's in this squad. Will he be in the 2026 World Cup squad?
Whether or not, I don't think it makes a huge amount of difference. I would perhaps possibly say potentially no.
No, I'd say no. I think Nick Pope, number 2,
Yeah.
loads of experience.
James Trafford sort of
and
coming
James
through the
Trafford
ranks,
is the third because he's so young. I think he's got a fantastic career ahead of him, Trafford. But Pickford is number 1. I think everything else is a little bit irrelevant.
Wow, I think Dean Henderson's had an amazing season personally. Of Crystal Palace, I think he's been brilliant. But let's keep going on.
You use the word, you said it's either or irrelevant. Is that because this man is nailed on to be England's number 1?
Yeah.
Because he is, isn't he, for the World Cup?
Yeah, there's been nothing to suggest otherwise.
Okay, so he goes.
I think that's a tap-in, isn't it, Jordan Pickford?
Aaron Ramsdale in this squad, but will he be in the 2026 squad?
Well, he'll be in League One with Southampton in a couple of years' time. Do you know what I mean? So
do you think Aaron Ramsdale will play in League One?
You don't think he'll stay in the Prem?
Yeah, he might do back-to-back relegations.
Do you not think he'll stay in the Prem? He'll get picked up this summer?
He's at Southampton right now, that's all I can say. They're going to get
I do
relegated.
think he needs to pick if he is to leave Southampton, I think he needs to be really clever with where he picks his next club. Because he's been relegated with Bournemouth. He's been relegated with Southampton.
Though, a little bit like I think it's
been
hard for
relegated
that
3 or 4
Southampton
more times
team
as well.
conceding 30 shots a game.
But it's up to him then, though, to make sure that he's wise about what his next move is.
I was going to say, I think a bit of perspective and balance is important here. If you watch Southampton, a lot of the goals they're conceding are not his fault. And in fact, he's been a standout player for Southampton for a lot of the games. It was only a couple of years ago he was in the team of the season when he was at Arsenal. So are we being a bit harsh on
I might be being a bit harsh on Ramsdale. Is
like
he an England keeper? Maybe he's a Premier League keeper. I'm not even disputing that. Maybe he's a Premier League keeper, maybe a Championship keeper, but he's not an England keeper, in my opinion.
Okay,
is your selection.
So let's go on to the last name, James Trafford, who is having season of all seasons. They've only conceded 11 goals, Burnley, in the Championship. I mean, in terms of clean sheets across Europe, Trafford is sky high.
He actually has been one of the standout keepers. I know people will say he's playing in the league below, but in terms of their defensive statistics, as you say, and how many sort of match-winning moments he's having, he's had an unbelievable season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so, yeah.
Okay, let's get James Trafford up there and we'll go into the defenders. Breeze through the goalkeepers.
There we go. So that was quick for the goalies. I think there's quite a bit to dissect with the defenders. Let's start with Dan Burn. I mean, what a week, Nieve, Dan Burn. Is he ever going to have a better week in his footballing career, do you think?
No, unbelievable. Although I think I might say home. No.
Why?
Nearly scored again last night, didn't he? Would have capped it off an amazing
I just think,
week.
don't get me wrong, I feel like his perhaps the pace element not being there, it's not really caused too much issue up until this point because he has got a really good understanding of the game and reads danger well. But maybe as time goes on, if you're like a real fast electric player, you might target him just like in a foot race. Do you know what I mean? There's a bit of a weak link there.
So do you think it's maybe a shootout between a player like him and Harry Maguire?
Well, Harry Maguire is better than Dan Burn, no question. I could definitely sort of say that with confidence. John Stones, Mike Gahey, all get ahead of him in a centre-back position. And then we've got the left-back sorted, so he's not a left-back for England, is he? It's nothing against Dan Burn. His story's fantastic. How he played for Newcastle in the League Cup final is exceptional. Is he going to get England? The question for England is it going to win England a World Cup with Dan Burn at centre-back? It's not, is it? It's not. I'm not being harsh.
Yeah, I think it's interesting though, isn't it? Because there has to be a bit of balance with personalities and characters off the field as well.
Agreed.
Because not every player in this squad is going to play every minute for
And we
England.
don't know what the injury what's going to happen with injuries centre-backs. It's a position where we're quite light, so he could. He could.
Also, for one of the most aerial duels in the Premier League this season, so we know that is a massive asset to his game. I know that you're talking about ball-playing centre-backs that might play alongside him, but he's having a good season. But he's not on the plane, so he's at home for you. So let's talk about another centre-back, Levi Colwill. Where do you stand with him?
I don't know because I think that there's a lot of potential there, But jury's still out for me with Levi. What do you think?
I don't think he's had the best season for Chelsea, but I see more versatility there. I see a little bit more pace than Dan Burn. I don't think he starts for England in the first game of the World Cup, but I think in a 26-man squad, I think Colwill can play left back in a back three with 3 centre-backs or 2 centre-backs. I think you can take his versatility a little bit more than Dan Burn.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think there's time to be passed between now and the World Cup, so this is on the hope that he'll get better and better.
Okay,
I'll
so
take
he's
go.
on the plane, Levi Colwill. That takes us to Mark Gahey, who was probably England's outstanding defender, if not player, at Euro 2024.
Yes.
Surely he's now
a total given, yeah. Probably we'll start.
Is he the first centre-back on Thomas Tuchel's team sheet, do you think, for the World Cup? It's interesting he didn't start last night, but obviously when you bear in mind the tournament that he had with the Euros, do you think he starts in Tuchel's first World Cup game?
Yeah, him and Stones. And it depends if we think as England fans that it's a back 5 or 4 at the back. It's him and John Stones for me.
I think it's going to be a back 4 now, given how we played and set up last night and how this squad is set up. It seems like it's going to be a back 4. Let's get Mark Gahey up on the board then, and we'll go to a player that Thomas Tuchel knows really well, Reece James, but has had maybe a little bit of a mixed season because of, yet again, more injuries.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'd like to say yes, but at the same time I'm hesitant to also have a reliance on him. I'd also like to look at the other options we've got in this position because we don't know if he will be fit, if you get me.
Yeah, if he's fit, he's one of the best right-backs in world football. He's not a midfielder like Maresca's tried in the last couple of weeks for Chelsea. I think on his day, if he's fit, I know it's a big question mark, but if he's fit, he's so good at right-back.
Does that affect him, though?
Good.
Does that affect him, the fact that he potentially is going to now become a midfielder under Enzo Maresca? Does that affect his England right-back role?
Do you think he will next season? I mean, we don't know that. I mean, he's played a couple of games, but Trent played a couple of games in midfield for England at the start of Euro 2024. I think he's so good in any position, but he has to go.
Let's talk about the right-back situation then, because it is an area England, no choice, you have been blessed with talent over the years. Who goes for you in the squad? Obviously, we saw Kyle Walker start last night. Trent is not available through injury. We've got Reece James. There are options there, Livramento as well. Who would you take in out of those in the right-back slot?
I'd take him and Trent as the two,
Reece
1 and 2,
Trent,
and then you can play both of them. I think eventually, if we get to a quarter-final of the World Cup, he will go back to a back 5. That's just my opinion.
Do you think he will?
I think he'll have to. And that's just how I see England and the lack of quality in midfield in certain areas. I think Reece James and Trent in a back 5, that is scary.
I can't see a world where Livramento doesn't go, though.
No.
Because I think his development throughout the season is he's just getting better and better.
I would say Lewis Hall as well. I know Lewis Hall's got that injury, but I think the similar applies to him. I think the season he was having prior to that injury.
Yeah,
could you take Livramento, Reece James and Trent? That feels like, again, the classic England 3 players for one role.
Yeah, or Livramento class him as a left back. I know it's not ideal.
So Reece, you're saying, is going to go?
Cool. Yeah, has to. It's Reece James.
Okay. Next up, Ezri Konsa. I thought he was excellent.
Yeah, I really like Ezri Konsa.
Yeah, he was.
Really, really like him. In fact, at this current moment in time, I prefer Konsa to like Colwill, for example, at this current moment. So he's like right up there in those conversations for our strong centre backs.
I agree. Yeah.
Do you think he's underrated, Konsa?
Yeah, so versatile as well.
Yeah.
He's fantastic.
Okay, nice and straightforward.
He's saying Ezri Konsa is going.
Let's talk about Miles Lewis-Skelly. I've got to talk about this kid, 18 years of age, making his debut. Very interesting in the build-up, wasn't it? Thomas Tuchel actually talking about the fact that he didn't know if he had a responsibility to not pick him because of his development, but obviously injuries to the likes of Hall and everyone else in that position. There wasn't loads of alternatives. Started for England, scored for England, and also played brilliantly.
Yeah, I feel it's interesting that I think with age, more and more as the game's going on, I feel like age can sometimes be irrelevant in terms of players like maturity and readiness. I think for someone like him and his attributes and that sort of fearlessness he's got and the strength he's got, I don't think you have responsibility for all young players, but I feel like you can trust him.
Do you know what I thought was great as well last night? Is like he's taken some ridiculous amounts of stick this week, which I think has just been totally uncalled for. So to score, just like silence so many people, like that was a great moment.
Yeah, it really was.
Really enjoyed so good.
We should just be getting behind these players. These are the exciting next generation.
Speaking of exciting young talents,
yes.
Again, I do agree with you. I think a serious player here.
Yeah, I mean, defensively, I've been impressed with him since the beginning of the season. And more as the season's gone on, we're starting to see improvement on the ball.
Yeah.
Perhaps maybe you could have said maybe he'd hold on to the ball for a little bit too long, maybe earlier in the season, but he's getting even better and better at that. You can see there's a player, I was actually speaking to Theo Walcott, who spent time with him, and he'd said that what's really good about him is he's actively hoping to learn how to improve his position. Like, he's really seeking out the information. So this is someone with a real good attitude as well.
Okay, so is he on the plane at home?
Yeah. I think the Newcastle League Cup win is massive as well. He was a fundamental part of that defence that looked so
playing
strong.
that position and shutting down Mo Salah, it's crazy.
Yeah, locked him up.
Jarrell Quansah.
Again, it's difficult because you've got to judge the player on the current and not what we think they will be. And on the current, for me personally, no.
It's interesting because he's been in and around England's squads for a while. I mean, but he's yet to win his first senior cap. When you think of like the other players that were brought in, Dan Burn, Miles Skelly, who both started. So he's a player that they've been looking at, and of course he's been a choice with the under-21s, but yet to start. Do you just feel that there's players that are slightly ahead of him at this moment in time?
I personally think he could get in the squad as the kind of fourth or fifth defensive option. Maybe not even starting, not even getting a minute in the World Cup. But I think his physical ability is fantastic. He's got great pace. I know Arne Slot kind of took him out of the squad at the start of the season, didn't quite trust him in big games. I think his ceiling is so high, Quansah. Playing for Liverpool as well. I think he has to go.
Do you think he'll get his minutes at Liverpool between now and 2026, or do you think he'd have to move to
what
get
if Van
those
Dijk
minutes?
leaves?
He's only started 11 of 47 games this season for Liverpool. Obviously, Konate and Van Dijk have really locked down that pairing.
Yes,
If
interesting.
Van Dijk goes, he'll get so many minutes. They'll have to bring another centre back in as well. But I think he's fantastic.
Let's make a decision then.
You can decide, because it's not something that I'm...
I'll go. I'll go.
Okay.
Generous.
Wow. Okay.
Carl Walker now, obviously, a man, I think he's on 94 caps for England, so he's closing in on that 100 mark. Does he go or not for the World Cup for you, Nieve?
Not for me, no.
Booth?
No, not for me. I think the level this season, I think he's going to have a good time with AC Milan wherever he goes in the summer. Fair play to him. I think he's one of the most underrated right-backs in the history of the Premier League, but his legs have gone a little bit. He's lost that yard of pace. I think we've got so many good right-back options as well. I think it's time to say goodbye.
Okay, let's get him up.
Okay.
And we'll go into the midfield. First name. Jude, I mean, don't need to waste any time here, do we?
How good was he last night, by the way?
Oh, incredible.
Let's get him up and go and talk about Abiri Eze.
Yeah, it's a very interesting one, isn't it? Because we're stacked with so much talent. And I know this is an on-the-fence thing to say, but I am genuinely of the belief that when it comes to the level of talent that we're dealing with in these attacking positions, it is just going to be about whatever he wants to play and how he wants to play, who suits that more. And so it's really hard to make a decision.
It's hard, yeah. And I think Eze could still be at Palace. With all due respect, it's a fantastic club. He'll be playing a lot of football, starting a lot of big games for Palace. I don't think he's going to get that move in the summer that justifies he has to be starting for England, with all due respect to Eze. But I love Eze. I just don't think he goes.
The thing with Eze that could play in his favour is the fact that a lot of his real talent comes from he could pick the ball up in midfield and just run past a load of players and maybe do something that goes against the script of a game. So he can sort of provide that in a tournament. He can provide that moment. But then we've actually got quite a lot of players that can do that as well. So is he better than them? I'm really not sure.
I think in his role, it's difficult, isn't it? Because you've got Jude that can play there, Phil Foden can play there, Cole Palmer that can play there, Morgan Gibbs-White can also play there. So where are you going to put him? Let's make a decision.
What do you think?
I think it's a no.
Okay.
It's very harsh.
It's very harsh because he is unbelievably talented. Next up.
Yeah, interesting one. Jordan Henderson, back in the England squad.
Yeah, not for me.
Booth's just shaking your head.
It's crazy. I mean, I'm glad we beat, obviously, Albania last night, but if we'd drawn, there would have been a lot of controversy around this. I don't understand. He can't even get a game for Ajax. I don't know why he's in the squad. It's a regression. I don't know why we go backwards.
I think where it's frustrated me is I think of all the players that I want to see straight in that camp straight away. Do you know what I mean? I want to see players. I want to see Gibbs-White in that camp. I want to see all our talent. I want to see Elliot Anderson. I want to see these players there ahead of the tournaments. We've got all these options and they're in and around the camp. And by having him, you're taking up a spot that I want to see other players.
Adam Wharton.
Do you think that part of it, because I was at St George's Park the week I was at both the England games, and it was fascinating seeing the collective. Do you think a big part of why he may have been in the England squad for a first squad is what he brings off the pitch. The fact that it's a very young squad, he's a senior figure, helping the young players settle in. A lot of managers have spoken about in international football how important that is to help a young squad, what they can do off the pitch. Do you think that might have been playing into Thomas Tuchel's mindset?
Yeah, and I can totally understand it, but then I also at the same time think, I feel like we can do without. I don't think that's enough for me, in my opinion. And we've got other senior players as well in that team.
Okay,
what can he tell Jude Bellingham? What can he tell Jude Bellingham already?
Okay.
He's not Steven Gerrard, is he? He's Jordan Henderson. I mean...
Curtis Jones?
Started last night.
Yeah, so I really like Curtis Jones. I think that this is a player that once we unlock his full capabilities, he'll just be right at the top as well. Like his ability, when he collects the ball in a tight area, his ability to just get out of it is just unbelievable.
Yeah, he can
so
play
much
multiple
talent
positions
there.
as well, and playing for Liverpool, I think, is a factor when you pick these squads, what he'll be achieving, potentially double Premier League winner, etc. So I think he has to go in the squad.
Okay.
Interesting, he's got the best passing accuracy of any Premier League player that's made more than 20 points this season. So, yeah, interesting stat. Declan Rice, surely that's a tap-in.
Easy.
Yeah.
Okay, Rice goes straight on to Morgan Rogers, I think, is next, which is another player in that 10 role. We're talking about Eze, ability to drive through gaps and pick the ball up deep and change the game.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that there's even more presence, physical presence, when he does it to Eze. I love Eze a lot, but I think even more so with this guy. I'm really excited by what we can
Doing it in the Champions League matters as well. I mean, Eze's level's still a Premier League player, fantastic, but this guy's influencing games at the highest level. When I watch Villa in the Champions League, he's been fantastic. He matches the Champions League level, so he has to go in the squad.
I mean, hat-trick in his first Champions League season already, notched up for Morgan Rogers, pretty impressive. Called up late, obviously, this was because of the injury to Cole Palmer, but what a season he's having. I was personally absolutely mystified how he was not selected in that original squad, given where Nottingham Forest are in the table, his
Based on
influence
form
in that
as well,
side, the improvements he's made over the course of this season. He's been one of the best players in the Premier League for me this year. Yeah,
and it's interesting because I feel like it's about finding that right balance when you're making England squads, in making sure that you're acknowledging the players in form, but you can't pick every squad based on who's in form, because it will change every time. But with someone like that, you see someone who's, for the next 5-10 years, you see someone who's going to be a part of that squad. So I'm the same as you, to be fair.
Yeah, he's still so young. He could be in the Champions League with Nottingham Forest, and he's the one driving it. He was fantastic against City a couple of weeks ago. I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
OK, let's get him up.
Him and Elliot Anderson.
Right, let's go to the
So
attacking
confused.
players then. There's a lot of chat to be had here, I think, Joe, isn't there? Jared Bowen, first up.
At this current moment, yeah.
I struggle. When he's played for England a couple of times when I've watched him. I don't know if he's at the level to influence England to win a World Cup. I just don't know. I think there's too much talent there. Saka's going to be guaranteed to start. Someone maybe like Phil Foden, you might have to put him there if there's an injury to Saka. I think he gets in ahead of Bowen on the right wing. Ethan Nwaneri.
Is it what you'd put Foden in that right wing position over Bowen?
I think if you get France in the quarterfinals of the World Cup, I think you're more likely to play Foden to cut into midfield, link up midfield than Jared Bowen.
What's Foden done when he's played wing for England so far in tournaments that does that for you?
He hasn't been great. He hasn't been great for sure. But I still think he's still at a high level, more maturity. He's got more experience at the highest level for England as well. Played so many games in the tournaments where we've been to back-to-back finals in the Euros.
But then wasn't that a problem though, that he's played all those games?
Yeah, I don't think Phil Foden should start right wing or even in midfield. I don't think he should start for England in the World Cup. But I think he's got a total more experience than Jared Bowen. I just think Bowen's level isn't quite there at the moment. With all due respect to him, he's a fantastic player, Bowen. Does he start right wing over Saka, over anyone else?
No, and to be fair, but that's why you've got a squad, and it's not just a starting 11. I think Bowen's shown that he can be a specialist in that area, in which I think Bowen's really underrated. Personally, I think what he does with West Ham is unbelievable. I think the levels he's shown in that specific position where he would come on, you know exactly where you'd put Bowen to impact a game.
His goal scoring
we
is
have a bit
incredible
more
as well.
indifference with.
Yeah, 1 and 2
Foden.
for West Ham is fantastic.
Okay.
I'd rather put Ethan Nwaneri in there as a gamble, seriously, next year. Seriously.
Really?
Yeah, 100%.
As we stand here today, then, Nieve, you're in charge of the magnet. What do you want to do?
I personally think that I'd say go.
Okay. 43 goal involvements for West Ham since the start of last season. 28 goals, 15 assists. Decent return, very decent.
I think with Nwaneri, because I really like Nwaneri, but I kind of think there's this thing with when we see a lot of talent in a young player, we get excited by what they're sort of capable of, and we go off that. Whereas I think with Bowen, we've seen it now for a while. He's like a higher stage and a later stage in his career, and I think we should be showing respect to that of what we already have with us in this moment.
Wanyeri's ceiling, I think, is higher. Scoring goals in the Champions League at 17. He's not even what is he? Barely 18. His ceiling is like it's like Rooney in 2004. It's close to that. I think Jared Bowen's level is just a solid Premier League player. He hasn't even scored in the Champions League. I mean, Wanyeri's unbelievable. Seriously.
Yeah.
Okay, Phil Foden.
Yeah.
He has to go in the like we're talking 26-man squad. These are big bloated squads. Even if we all disagree in the studio, he's at least a 26th man.
Yeah.
At least.
No, I totally agree. I would like him to be there. I just think it's going to be a fascinating one as to where and when he plays and gets his minutes.
No, I agree. I don't think he starts for England, but I think he's got a big role to play. If he can get his head right for England and next season City go back to top level form, he's so underrated.
Yeah.
So underrated.
Anthony Gordon.
Yeah, it has to go, right?
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
Okay, in that left wing slot. So he's a tap-in for your left wing slot. If you're saying that, Harry Kane presumably is a tap-in as well.
Another fantastic finish.
Yeah, the finish last night was just
outrageous.
Ridiculous. And that leaves us with
you've got
a couple of players that I think are worth discussing heavily. Because Marcus Rashford has really come back to the fore. Aston Villa, creatively looks excellent. He's working really hard off the ball. He's constantly dangerous in 1v1s. But does he make the squad for you?
Not for me. He's not at the level. He's been decent for Villa. A little bit overblown. The Rashford narrative at Villa started, 3 or 4 games. He's been good at Villa. But a loan spell for Villa for a few months. We don't know where he's going to be in the summer. It doesn't justify. I don't think he's good enough for England at the World Cup. I don't.
I think if you were to say, we look at like Jordan Henderson and having someone a bit more senior in the team. I think if you were to have senior players who have sort of been there for a while, and his numbers for England are brilliant. So I think if you would start to have more players like that, I'd rather have someone like a Rashford in there. The only issue will be is in that moment when it comes to the World Cup, will there be a talent that you want out there instead?
Yeah, I thought he struggled last night, by the way. I thought Foden struggled, for sure, but you can play a multitude of positions. But Rashford really struggled last night, I thought.
I wouldn't want to give up on him and just make the decision now and say, home, you can't do it. I feel like we need to see more. We need to see more of what he does throughout the end of the season, whatever he does next season. How
long have I've been waiting for 10 years for the Rashford hype to come to reality. I've been waiting for a long time. He's a good player, by the way.
No, because it has come to reality. We've seen Rashford be brilliant, so it has come to reality.
I mean,
I don't mean Villa. I mean,
as
in you said you've been waiting 10 years. Within that 10 years, he's had some great moments, and he's also been. We've relied upon him to get goals for England as well.
Last 2 years, he was poor, Nieve, wasn't he? He was poor last couple of years. For the level he has to be at to be in an England squad, he was flat for Man United for 2 years, went on loan to Aston Villa, started the season really poor, by the way, went to Aston Villa. He's been good, but World Cup 2026, I think we're rewarding Rashford for working hard all of a sudden. Like he started the season really poorly for his boyhood club, big club, Manchester United. They needed him in a big way. I felt he started the season so weakly.
Okay, let's make a call.
Do you know, I will put him in home, but I said personally, because I'm also of the belief that he'd have to do a lot of work, but I'm also not. I don't want to give up on him just yet.
Okay. Final name then.
Dom Solanke.
Where's Ollie Watkins? Do you know, or Ivan Toney?
I think Ollie Watkins has got a bit of a knock at the moment, so that's one of the reasons he's not in this squad. But are you saying you would take both of those players over him, even though Tony's playing Saudi?
Who do you take then? Who are the other strikers you take? Bear in mind Kane strikes. Who starts? Sorry.
I think Ollie Watkins and Liam Delap would get ahead of Dom Solanke.
It will be interesting to see how Liam Delap does next season.
And where he's at.
Yeah, that'll be a huge part. I think the only issue that Solanke will have is there's only so many in that set role that we kind of need. I feel like you'd rather bump out attackers who can play everywhere kind of thing for a tournament. So maybe his specific role, you're more likely to predict that others will potentially get minutes and come on than him, maybe.
Okay, so we're saying Dom Solanke, you don't think...
Where are you putting him?
For me,
No, I agree. I mean, Spurs are struggling as well. He's
obviously,
loads of goals.
worth pointing out some injured players, aren't there? Saka, going to be a tap-in. Cole Palmer's injured. There's a couple of injuries in the back line. You mentioned Stones, Maguire. But that is confirmation of who... Now, that is Nieve and Buvey's picks, just to reiterate, who they think from the current squad will go to the World Cup to bring it home and who will stay at home. So let us know what you think of that at home.
Tough.
There we have it.
Very tough.
It is tricky, that, isn't it?